An abundance mindset is the belief that there is nothing truly scarce. So we grew up as a human species in scarcity, and our physiology and the way our brain is wired for scarcity. If I have an orange tree, I'm 5'5", I grab the oranges from the lowest hanging branches, all of a sudden oranges are scarce again, until I invent a piece of technology called a ladder that gives me higher reach, and now I've got access to oranges again. If you've got a pie and you've got a family of 4 coming over for dinner, but then all your neighbors hear about it and they all come for dinner, you have to slice the pie into thinner and thinner slices. In an abundance mindset, it's like, we're gonna go bake more pies. The realization is technology is turning whatever used to be scarce into abundance. The realization is there is nothing truly scarce. You know, an exponential mindset is we evolved in a local and linear world. Nothing changed. The life of your great-great-great-great-grandparents and the life of your great-great-great-great-grandchildren was the same, right, over millennia. That was it. But today we're living in a world where technology is growing exponentially. Things are not changing century to century or decade to decade, they're changing year to year. And so an exponential mindset is understanding how computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, augmented virtual reality, Web3, how all these technologies are transforming what each of us can do in our lives.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because running a business is hard, and waking up every day and getting to work when you're all by yourself is hard. And the thing that saved me, that continues to inspire me, motivate me, give me hope, inspiration, ideas, is looking at the stories of people who've done a lot more than me. And I learn strategies, I get motivation, and it gets me to believe in myself to go off and attack the day. And so I hope this video inspires you to do the same as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Peter Diamandis, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is deploy new technologies.
You make a very bold claim in your new book. You said that the next billion-dollar company will be founded by 3 people. How is that possible?
First of all, I'll just say that we're living in a different day and age. The ability to start companies today that are exponential, and the name of the book is Exponential Organizations 2.0, the new playbook for 10x growth and impact. It's a series of attributes that never existed before. And AI is going to play the biggest role without question, but it's all the exponential technologies. One of the things I'm doing in the companies that I'm running or advising or investing in is I'm saying, first of all, every company needs to have what I call a chief AI officer. And it's a role I made up, was teaching at Abundance 360 this year, and it is not someone who's building a large language model for you or writing code for you. It's an individual who understands what's going on in the terrain, because we're seeing not hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands of startups. Everybody, you can start an AI company now with literally spare time in your garage. So understanding what's out there, what the modalities are, and what you can and should be using is critical. So your chief AI officer is scanning the horizon, understanding it, and then advising members of your team. So every part of your team, right? There's going to be AI supporting sales and marketing and engineering and HR. We're all going to have, in the near term, an AI co-pilot, right? This is an AI that helps you do your job better because we are so limited as carbon life forms. But ultimately is going to be able to operate and do a number of the things repetitively, because we do a lot of repetitive tasks, and AIs are much better at that. Listen, I'm in HR. Go to ChatGPT, open it up right now. Hopefully you have the the GPT-4 version of it, and say, I'm in HR. How should I be using generative AI in my business? It'll feed you. Give me 5 examples or 10 examples. Pick the one that sounds good. Give me step-by-step instructions on how to use this. It's it's recursive in that fashion. And so you're going to use AI to help you learn what you want to know. It comes back a lot to mindset, Tom, and you need the mindset of a kid here. Curiosity, absolute play. It's like, one of the things I'm going to be doing in my team, my PhD Ventures that runs Abundance 360 and a few others, we're setting aside 3 days and no homework coming out of these 3 days. We're going to go in with a series of objectives, and we're going to actually crank for 3 days and generate all the content, all the plans. And you can, but it takes time for all of us to switch from our old habits of how we do things to new ways. So the first time it's going to take 150% of your time. The next time will take 50%, then 25%.
Rule number 3 is learn to adapt.
I like to say that we're living in a world that has been pummeled by exponential technologies, right? I liken it to the asteroid that impacted the planet 65 million years ago, and it changed the world so rapidly, the environment so rapidly, that the slow lumbering dinosaurs died and went extinct, and the furry little mammals, our very proud ancestors, evolved to dominate. And the asteroid that struck the world now over the last 20, 30 years and accelerating is all of these exponential technologies: computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain. All these technologies are just like transforming, it's a tsunami of change. And you're either an EXO surfing on top of the tsunami or you're being crushed by it. And I think anybody who's not been, asleep for the last 6 months knows that one of those tsunami-causing attributes is AI and algorithms.
Rule number 4 is find your purpose.
How important is love, purpose, and inner peace in extending our lifespan?
Yeah, I think they're extraordinary. I think mindset, I talk about food, exercise, sleep, and then mindset is fundamental. I think love and companionship and purpose. You've all heard the stories of, the couple that is deeply in love and one dies and the one dies shortly thereafter, right? I mean, I think you can will yourself to death. And of course, our founding fathers, this country, I forget which two of them, died within hours of the 50th anniversary of the founding of the country.
Wow.
Right? They were like, I'm going to make it to that point. I'm going to make it there, right? And so having a purpose, and this is something that is really deeply meaningful for me right now. And I'm spending a lot of time on this. I had an experience, I co-founded something called Singularity University with Ray Kurzweil. And did that now almost 15 years ago. And we have executive programs and graduate programs, and Abundance 360, my program, is the year-round highest level version of Singularity University. And the graduate programs, we'd get 100 graduate students from around the world, top of their class, the best in AI and robotics and medicine, whatever it might be. And I remember every year I would ask a question: how many of you are clear about your purpose in life? And shockingly,
not many would respond.
Less than half the class. And I expected 90% there, right? And it
These
was
are the brightest of the bright.
Yeah. And they're just, from the top universities and entrepreneurs. And so it would be like 40% would raise their hand. And I'm like, holy shit. Listen, for everybody who doesn't know, your mission in this program is to find your passion and purpose. That's all. I don't care what you build as a company. Find your passion and purpose, because it drives everything. It's a great Mark Twain quote. He says, there are two important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you found out why. And so I'm on a mission right now to help people find their passion and purpose.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is do what you love.
When you wake up in the morning, are you excited about the day that you have in front of you? Or even if the day is going to suck, even if it's back-to-back meetings and whatever else, is it still cool? Is it still fun, what you're doing? Do you feel like you're connected to it?
100%. And it's, I think if you don't have that in your life, your job is to find it. right? That's ultimately what every person can have. And I think the technologies that are coming online today are able to help you because they can augment you. You may not have had the education in school to pursue the dream that you want, but you can use eventually an AI co-pilot to enable you to do that. We're going to move towards a world in which the stuff that is dull, dangerous, or dirty that people don't want to do will be done by robots and by AI algorithms and so forth. But those who truly, want to be creatives, want to be entrepreneurs, want to have a dream, what did you want to do as a kid before the world told you you couldn't do it? That's truly magical. Chris, you and I are lucky. We are doing what we love. A lot of parts of the world, they don't have that luxury. They're doing what's possible to put food on their table or get insurance for their family. And we're gonna be transforming that. That's part of the process of uplifting humanity.
Rule number 6 is study AI.
I think AI is the most important tool humanity has ever created to solve all of our biggest problems.
No doubt.
Period, exclamation point, big, bright letters. Having said that, are there dangers? So the dangers can simply break down into 3 different groups. One, at one end, is AI becomes conscious and decides to squash us and step on us. I find that very unlikely and a ridiculous thesis. I think people have just seen this in Hollywood way too much. I think the more intelligent something is, honestly, the more loving and kind and pro-life it will be.
Why? Why
That's
would that
my
be true?
belief. It is my belief I have. Other than I see humanity becoming as a whole over time. If you look at the numbers, right, and we've looked at this from abundance, warfare reducing massively over time, violent death reducing massively over time, access to freedom increasing over time. The numbers over 1,000 years, not over the last 5, 10, 20 years, but over 1,000 years. And that's come from educating each other with books and transportation connecting us across the world and globalization and interdependence. All of these things have led to, it's hard to remember this watching the Crisis News Network, right? CNN every day that's broadcasting every murder on the planet to you over and over and over again. It's shaping our neural nets. Our brains are neural nets that we teach from example after example. And I don't watch the news, right? I don't want some editor telling me about yet another murder or crooked politician. Got it. And it isn't showing us a fair and balanced view of what's actually going on in the world. The incredible science and technology and humanitarian acts, all of these things. AGI at its extreme, artificial general intelligence at its extreme, I don't believe is going to be dystopian in itself. In the middle term, what I would call the terrible twos or the teenage years, maybe there is a case to be made that in the beginning AI hasn't reached full sentience, doesn't understand the power of its tools. Maybe there's a case that, it's the baby picking up a rock and throwing it at the window, not understanding what it's,
a teenager with a BB gun and a squirrel.
Yes.
That's the best one.
But the third element, which is the most likely, is the malevolent individual. It's the bad actors using technology. And so sometime in the next 18 months, 2 years, there may well be not a retrovirus released, but an AI virus that goes out and shuts down power plants or shuts down Wall Street and something and causes a economic hurdle. That's not the AI. Those are the humans using that tool, just to be very clear. There's a great book by Mo Gadot called Scary Smart. Came out about a year ago. Do you know the book?
I haven't read the book, but I had Mo on the show recently.
Yeah, Mo is fantastic. And he basically says, listen, I want you to think about AI as a child we're giving birth to as humanity. And that child is being taught by its parents. Now, if you think about Superman, who lands in Kansas, wherever he landed, and he's picked up by the Kents, and it's a loving family, he learns good ethics and morals, and he becomes a superhero for good. What if Superman had landed in the Bronx and part of a drug lord ring, and had become the supervillain?
You make me want to write that story. As soon as you started, I was like, wait a second.
There's a great plot there.
So the question is, we humans, how are we teaching this new life form coming into existence?
Rule number 7 is educate yourself.
This technology is accelerating in speed, and it's difficult to keep up with it. The most important thing is to educate ourselves. Our brains, the way we think, we have 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections. Our brains evolved for a very different day and age. We evolved over the last 100,000 years in a world that was very local and linear. Nothing changed generation to generation. Today, we're living in this exponential world.
Rule number 8 is feed your mind with positivity.
My first book was called Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think. It was the top of the New York Times list. Very proud of it. And as I would go around and talk about this concept of the world being better than ever, I would have people, sort of their first response is, what, are you kidding me? I remember this conversation in this coffee shop where this young couple was debating whether it's morally right to bring a kid into this world. And I'm going, what world are you seeing? I'm seeing the best world I've ever had. And so the challenge is that when I make these statements and people react based on the world that they see brought to them by what I call the crisis news network or the constantly negative news network or whatever you call CNN these days, the reaction would be, why are you so positive about the future? Don't you watch the news? And my answer is actually no, I don't watch the news. And I look at the data. So let's talk about both of those. So there's a lot of news junkies out there. And for hours a day, tens of hours per week, you're being fed all the negative news around the world. And it's an addiction, and it's a problem because your most precious asset is your mindset. If you think the world is screwed, then you're not going to be investing. You're not going to be spending the time. Your outlook towards the world is negative, and you behave in that fashion. And it turns out that our brains pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news. And that's an evolutionary advantage from those days when it was local and linear. Because back then, if you missed a piece of negative news, your genes were out of the gene pool. And so we pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news, which is why we are bombarded by negative news. The news media's job is to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers. It just is. And it's not that the news that's being presented isn't true, at least other than during election season. It's just not a fair and balanced view of what's really going on in the world, right? There's no one standing outside the Austin airport saying, there was no airplane crash here today, or at the local high school saying there's no school shooting here today, right? So all we get is all the negative stuff all the time in high definition, in our living room, our tablets, our radios, our newspapers, over and over and over again. Tomorrow morning, I normally step over the newspaper in the hotel, but if you open up the newspaper, just count the number of negative stories to positive stories. They couldn't pay me enough money to feed that stuff into my brain.
Rule number 9 is practice self-care.
When it comes to your suite of tools that you're using in order to extend longevity, diet, sleep, exercise, don't do anything stupid mindset. Why are you not bringing up sunlight or heat or cold exposure? Why does that not factor in as a primary for you?
It does. So I do a cold shower every morning. I do a hot shower first, and then I'll turn it on to freezing, and I'll last as long as I can. I just don't have a cold plunge set up, but I love it. And saunas are great. They're an important part. I just need to pull it in to my current living environment, which I have not done yet. But where I can do it, I definitively do that. There's a whole bunch of different supplements and meds that I do take. I don't want to be, practice medicine. I can say what I do, right? I take about a gram of metformin every day, right, which reduces blood glucose levels. I supplement my testosterone to bring it up to, optimal levels. I'm taking 6 milligrams of rapamycin right now, and then a whole slew of supplements. And again, I think on my Diamandis.com, there's all of my longevity protocols, everything I'm doing accessible there.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is be in service to others.
What advice do you give to people with power?
I think it's, again, what's your purpose? It really comes down, the one thing that, I will go back to Elon, the thing that's guiding for him is that he will spend every penny he's got to get the human race onto Mars, right? And it's like, I'm clear about that.
Right.
No question whatsoever. He's not going to take SpaceX public because he didn't want shareholders telling him what he can and cannot do with his rockets. So if you're seeking power, I think it's empty unless it's in service of something. So what's your fundamental objective? Is it creating, feeding everybody healthcare, energy, clean water? What are you going to use your power for? Getting power for the sake of power is empty and meaningless, and I think it makes for a very empty life.
I mean, how have you personally dealt with more wealth, more access, more power? How do you keep your mindset abundant, moonshot, exponential, but not egotistical, overpowering, me, and hurting others? How do you keep it in service to the mission and not to yourself?
I think, listen, my MTP, my massive transformative purpose, just to state it for the record here, is to inspire and guide entrepreneurs to create a hopeful, compelling, and abundant future for humanity.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I do, X Prize, Abundance 360, it's in service. How do I inspire? How do I help people find their purpose and their passion? What are the biggest problems we're going to take on? Now, there's beautiful alignment. I like to say that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities.
Right.
We want to become a billionaire, help 1 billion people. There's nothing nothing wrong with creating wealth and going big, but let's have it be in service of making the world a better place. A great question. If you have a lot of passionate people, can you go and solve any problem? And the question is there a lack of leadership? And absolutely. When I talk about passion, I'm not talking about passion on its own that's undirected. I'm talking about the individual who says, I am sick and tired of this problem, and I am going to dedicate my life to solving that problem. That's true passion. And I think a lot about the incredible wealth we have today, more than ever before. And so for folks like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, who I've had a chance to have this conversation with, and we talk about the giving pledge, right? Like, I'm going to give half of my wealth away before I die into a foundation. And I call bullshit on this. What I really want are individuals of means. And means comes with reputation, means comes with capital, means comes with corporate resources, means comes with all kinds of different versions of means. It's an individual saying, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having women uneducated in Mumbai or Tanzania. I'm tired about these issues around unequal rights, or these people being oppressed, or people not having water or food. And I'm calling my shot. I'm going to solve that problem. That's passion for me. And leadership, you're absolutely right. Perhaps I should use the word leadership as well. But the most passionate individual says, I don't know how, but I am going to solve that problem. I'm dedicating my life, and I'm announcing to the world right here, right now, this is my purpose. And I'm going to use my capital, my resources, the best of technology I have in hand to solve that problem. And what I teach here at Singularity University is that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities, right? Aren't they? If you think about the notion of what are the biggest problems on the planet? Food, energy, water, healthcare, education, communications, housing, for hundreds of millions and billions of people. And they are also the world's biggest opportunities. And so when I'm out there preaching to the people who work with me at my Abundance 360, that work with me at SU and my venture fund is, listen, the name of the game should not just be wealth creation. That's great, but wealth in the service of what? What are you going to do with it? After you've left $50 million to your kids, which could ruin them, what are you going to do with your money? What is the difference you want to make? What is the big problem that you care about so passionately about you're going to lead? And so thank you. I'm going to start to use the word leadership and passion in what I say. But is that a fair point? We're living in a time right now where you can have a big idea and you can test and iterate very rapidly until you find the right product market fit. And things can scale. We're going from I've got an idea to I run $1 billion company fashion anytime in human history. There are more unicorns than ever before because there's more capital than ever before. And entrepreneurs can come up with an idea and test it quickly, and fail it quickly, or iterate different versions of it quickly. And that's an amazing time. And so it's never been better to be an entrepreneur. And I talk about this in all the work I do when I'm working with people. I say, first and foremost, it's critically important for you to get clarity on what I call your massively transformative purpose. What are you on this planet to do? Doing anything big and bold is hard work. It's all hard work, right? Hard. We get this incredible, fantasy of what it was like to be Jeff Bezos or be Elon Musk or be, Zuckerberg, all these guys. And the fact of the matter is, we think it's easy. We think it's like start at idea and go straight to $1 billion valuation, but it's not. There are incredibly difficult times along the road, right? There's this period of launch your idea and then on the death of the doorstep of death over and over and over again, and not giving up. I joke that a lot of my most successful ventures are overnight successes after 11 years of hard work. Right? I know Elon well, and looking at what he did with Tesla and with SpaceX is extraordinary, but it was hard. It's still hard, and it was on. He tells the stories of being on the brink of bankruptcy, on the brink of running out of capital, and it was his sheer fortitude, right? The team at Airbnb, they iterated their idea hundreds of times to get something that works. And so, but it's possible now as an entrepreneur, where before you would, failure was a death knell. Today it's experience. I'm at MIT, it's my sophomore year, and I'm passionate about space. I find out there's no student space organization at MIT. Oh my God, you're crazy. It's MIT, it should be a student space organization. And so I go to the MIT Student Center and I find out you need to get 5 signatures to start a group. And I'm the first. I get 3 of our fraternity brothers, Bill, Brad, and Roland as the third, and then one of their girlfriends, Natalie. And that's our first 5. And we get it, we submit it, and I'm running the student space organization. And I go and I poster MIT. This is before the days of the internet, right? Before computers, like rub-on letter type of days, and photocopy days. This is 1982, thereabouts. And I poster the entire campus, and 30 people show up at this meeting where I pitch this idea of creating a student space organization. And after that meeting, I was so enthralled by this level of energy, like, oh my God, this has a future. And I remember standing outside the student center, looking up at the stars, and sort of seeing, fast forward, this organization actually becoming what it's become. And I sent out letters along with 2 of my colleagues, and it gets published by Astronomy, Analog, and Omni magazine, and hundreds of people write letters back in, and the organization blossoms into an international student space organization. I find myself running in the living room of my fraternity, right? Now, it was a success, and I became addicted to that feeling of success. Now, had that been a failure, had I done that and next year no one showed up and it flopped, maybe we'd be having a different story.
Right.
But in the success, I was like, okay, what can I do next? And next for me was something called the Space Generation Foundation, and then International Space University, ISU, which is another major nonprofit success, but has grown into a $100 million university, around the world, and it's just been amazing. But I think part of this is putting yourself out there and trying. It's the ratio of 0 to 1 is infinite. And how do you get people to just try to overcome their fears? That's the hard part. And it's the realization that it's okay to fail, but it's even better to succeed. We're living in a world where access to expertise is everywhere. You and every one of us is an expert in something. But at the end of the day,
if you want to do something in your life that you don't know how to do, but you're passionate about doing it, you can reach out there and get all the expertise you need. What are you passionate about changing? What do you want to do on this planet? For me, it was space. I wanted to go to space since I was a child. I was born at the tail end of the Apollo era, and literally it formed my vision of what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an astronaut so badly, right? The Apollo program, hard to believe, was 49 years ago we landed on the moon. The Apollo program showed us what was possible. And then this scientific documentary showed us where we were going. A hopeful vision of the future. And this lit up my life. And I was absolutely clear of what I was doing. I knew my massively transformative purpose. It was to help take the human race off the planet to the stars. And after I looked at the numbers, I found out my chance of becoming an astronaut was like 1 in 1,000. I had a better chance of becoming an NBA All-Star at 5'5" than I did entering the astronaut corps. And then one day I read about Lindbergh that in 1927, he crossed the Atlantic not on a whim, but to win a $25,000 prize. And so when I gave up on NASA being the way I was going to go to space, I said, how am I going to get a spaceship to go to space? I figured out this is what I'm going to do, right? I was going to create a $10 million prize. 10 million was enough to inspire the entrepreneurs, but not the Boeings and the Lockheeds. And I was going to offer it up for the team who could build a private spaceship, carry 3 adults, me and a friend and a pilot, or an autopilot and 3 of us, up to 100 kilometers, land safely, and do it again within 2 weeks. Amazingly, that $10 million prize ended up inspiring 26 teams from 7 countries around the world who spent $100 million trying to solve it. They're all optimists. This was the winning moment in Mojave on October 4th of 2014. Here's the vehicle, Spaceship One, hanging in the Smithsonian right next to the Spirit of St. Louis that inspired it in the first place. And so for me, my challenge that I wanted to do was I wanted to find the experts out there in the world that could build me the private spaceships that would take me and my friends to space. And this idea of an incentive prize, it worked. It worked amazingly well. We didn't pay any of the losers. We only paid the winner.
We're living in a world that is fear-driven to a large extent, right? And there's a reason for this. As we were evolving millions of years ago, there were so many things that could kill us. And our brains evolved a part of the brain called the amygdala that looks and listens for all the dangers in your world. And this was evolutionarily beneficial, centuries and millennia ago, when we were under constant threat. And when you hear something negative, it puts you on red alert and you pay immediate attention, right? So you see like a rustle in the leaves and you think a tiger rather than the wind. You see a crack on the ground, you think snake rather than a stick.
Because you have to think the worst case scenario
to save your life.
To save your life.
It would save your life before. Now, what happens is our news media bombards us with negative news all the time, right? I laughingly call CNN the crisis news network or the constantly negative news network. I don't have a good version for Fox, but it is. We're living in a world where, listen, there are media companies whose mission it is to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers, and if we pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news, that's what we're feeding. So I coach 360 CEOs every year at my abundance event right here in Beverly Hills and 5,000 entrepreneurs. And I'm saying, listen, at the end of the day, run the experiment, pick up the newspaper tomorrow and count the number of positive stories to negative stories, right? It's like maybe 10 to 1 negative to positive.
One out of yeah.
And it's not that it's not true. I'm not saying this is fake news. What I'm saying is that there's so much amazingly positive news, you just don't hear about it because good news networks don't succeed. And so we're bombarded by this negative news, and it changes our mindset, and it puts us in a state of fear. And fear is not a good place from which to live your life or make the world a better place.
Can you be creative from a place of fear and terror?
No, you're restrictive. You're scarcity minded. You're not creative and expansive, and you're looking to protect what you have versus create something new. And so a lot of my work at the X Prize, in Abundance 360, at Singularity University, in my books are around
helping people see the world a different way, right? We're living arguably during one of the most extraordinary times in human history. Today, an individual is more powerful than presidents were a few decades back, more than the kings and the queens. We have access to more knowledge, energy, capital, computational power. People don't honestly know how powerful they are to make their dreams come true, to transform the world, to find a problem and solve a problem, right? So I'm with the entrepreneurs that I support. I say, listen, stop complaining and start solving.
Go find a solution.
Go find a solution, because the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities.
That's true.
Right? And I teach this throughout my programs. Want to become a billionaire, help a billion people. Right? This beautiful convergence that we're so powerful and we can solve these problems. Not everything, but I think a good number of them. I was the closing speaker for President Clinton at CGI. And at the end of his introduction, he said to me, Peter, why are you so positive about the future? Don't you watch the news? And I said, President Clinton, with all due respect, no, I don't watch the news. And I look at the data. And so the reality is that as we humans were evolving on the savannas of Africa hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, back then, if we missed a piece of negative news, like so rustling of the leaves is the wind and not a lion, you know, the negative news could put you out of your misery. And we developed an ancient piece for our temporal lobe called the amygdala, about the size of your thumb, that scans everything you see and everything you hear for negative news. And if you see it, it puts you on red alert. And it's not something we control. It's something deep wired into our brains. And at the end of the day, the news media uses this, right? The old adage, if it bleeds, it leads, is so true, right? If you ask yourself the question, you know, what's the news media's job? It's to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers. That's it, pure and simple. And so if we're paying 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news, open up the newspaper tomorrow morning and just count the number of negative stories to positive stories. It's extraordinary. It's 10 to 1. I mean, do the experiment. And it's not that they're, you know, masochistic or that they want to just, you know, have a negative mindset. It's their business. They don't show you all the other amazing news going on in the world every single day. And so I choose not to watch the news. I mean, period. I get back 2 hours a day. It's amazing. My social network will tell me what I need to know. My family will. My friends will. There's nothing I don't miss. I have Google alerts for my companies and the things that I care about. But allowing, you know, the Crisis News Network or Fox or whomever it might be to tell me what they think I should be learning, not what I want to do with my time. I have a belief that every problem is solvable. It may not be easy.
How did you come up with that? Because that, for most people, would seem pretty counterintuitive.
Well, because as I think about the world we're living in today, it's the realization that we have solved so many problems to achieve this extraordinary world we live in today, in terms of global production of food, of energy, of water, of information. We're living in the world of Star Trek. You know, I mean, you think about that we can diagnose almost anything. I can read your genome for $100 in a matter of a couple of hours and understand all 3.2 billion letters of your life and have an AI analyze that and tell me about yourself, right? I can on one of these devices call up any piece of information, talk to anyone on the planet. This is magic. This is crazy stuff, you know, just 20 years ago, let alone, you know, 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So, you know, the realization is any problem is only a problem contextually today. And we're going to be creating the tools and knowledge to be able to solve that problem. And I believe that any problem not forbidden by the laws of physics is solvable. And even then, we're going to sort of learn where the boundaries of physics truly are.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below, on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Brendan Burchard, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Procrastination basically means that you are not doing what you know you need to do when you know you need to do it. It's putting things off because in the short term, it's easier, more pleasurable to be distracted